Likutei Torah, Parshas Re'eh, page Chof, second column, 5 lines down. Okay, now the Rebbe was explaining the concept of mitzvah tishmeru. Mitzvahs need to be guarded. There shouldn't be a yanika for chitzenium. And then he says, "V'keilis ishmo." That's the level of Torah, because we know an aveda can extinguish a mitzvah, meaning not chas v'shom, it's not counted as you did the mitzvah, but the enthusiasm and excitement of the mitzvah is extinguished. But shenkin Torah doesn't become extinguished because Torah is higher than the world. By the way, today's class is sponsored by Avram Aradian in honor of his birthday. Shnas Hatzlacha. Okay. Today's not his birthday, Monday is. Okay, so it says, why doesn't an Aved affect a Torah at all? Because the market of Torah is Hagba L'mayla Mikayda V'Shosha D'Kula. Torah is, the source of Torah is higher than the source of everything else. It comes to the level of Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim that come in the month of Elul, that are revealed in the month of Elul when Melech Basadeh. Because Elul is an auspicious time. Auspicious time, what do you mean auspicious time? Auspicious time, the Rebbe says, means it's a greater revelation of Elokus. So Torah normally, that's why there's, as we say before davening, B'Shmol Eimed, B'Shleishes Mides HaTorah in the Neshes, there's 13 ways that you can learn Torah. So Chazal explained, according to Chassidus and Kabbalah, that corresponds with the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim. So Torah is higher than world. So Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim is higher than world. B'chol Shana, but the rest of Elul, it comes down by itself. B'chol Shana Mamshich and Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim Adei Torah, comes through Torah. Why? Kimokar Torah to Yag Mitzvah Derais Zayim Mitzvah Tarachamudi Erd. Of a Mekayda Sirach Maslichos, B'Sham Neisi Oven V'Pesha, and therefore he's, okay, we learned this already. What? What is that? Didn't say it. Zel V'Kayda Tishmo, skip the 10 lines of the parentheses. Zel V'Kayda Tishmo, because what is the Kayda Tishmo? Listen to the voice. Ki Kol Kayl, what is a voice? A voice is a revelation of something. You can tell by somebody's voice if they're distressed, depressed, excited, happy, or whatever it is. Torah comes from the highest of levels, from Ayidei Tanoim v'Amiroim, through the Tanoim and Amiroim, Mara Masnis and V'Gemara. They're the owners, so to speak, of the Mishnah and Gemara, Ba'alocha. He says, because Zushenema mipi Beisil and Beishamai, for instance, the halacha said in the name of Beisham Beisilo is Devar Hashem Atzmi, is mamish the word of Hashem himself. It's not Beisham Beisilo said it. That's why we said, the Baal Shem Tov says on the first word of Pirkei Avos, Moshe Kibul Torah Misinai, the Baal Shem Tov said, Moshe, Mem Shin Hei is Machlekes Shamei Hillel. That was also Kibbutz Torah Misinai. So he says, what is the inyan of Torah? That's what Al Rebbe says in Tanya. Torah is likened to Mayim. Ma Mayim Yardim Mimakim Gavei L'Makim Namuch. Torah is likened to a lot of things. We learned it's likened to fire and to milk and to honey, and Torah is likened to water and all these things. So why is it likened to water? So the Rebbe says, just like water goes from a high place to a low place, the same thing Torah comes from the greatness of Hashem, and it comes all the way down here. And as the pasuk says, my words that I'm putting in your mouth, mamish, that's what it means. B'kayli tishmo, the pasuk says you should listen to Hashem. Hashem's voice. What does that mean? Ki kol hayeshiv v'sheina. The Gemara says, whoever sits and learns, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yeshiv v'sheina kenegdei. Hashem sits opposite us, kaviyachol, and he says, learns the same thing. Whoever sits and learns, Hashem sits and learns opposite you. What does that mean? That when a Yid learns, he brings down the Dvar Hashem all the way down here. That's a V'keilis Ishmo. That's another way of coming to the level of Ladas, to connect Hashem. Rak atem tishmo. V'keilis tishmo meaning, Shma hashmei la'oznecha, listen with your ears, ma shata meitim mepicha. The Gemara says on the word Shma, what does it mean Shma? So it says, the Gemara says the expression, Hashmei la'oznecha, listen with your ears, what you speak in your mouth. Now what does that mean? It doesn't mean, listen, of course you talk, you'll hear it. It means you should understand what you're saying. Pirish, Ato b'chinas Torah Sheba'al Peh. Ato is the level of Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is Dvar Hashem, which speaks through the mouth. And then it continues, the Kelis Ishmo, and then it says, V'eisi Saveidu, Pirish Taveidu, the next step is to be an Eved, like to be an Eved of Hashem. Like it says, Ivdos Hashem b'simcha. To serve Hashem with simcha, Ki tzarech liyes beis b'chinas ben v'b'chinas Eved. Okay? When it comes to serving Hashem, you have to serve Hashem with ben and the level of Eved. Even though they are contradictory, because if you're a ben, you can't be an Eved. If you're an Eved, you can't be a ben. But this we say every day in davening, Avinu Malkeinu. We say it many times in davening. Avinu Malkeinu. Hashem is our father, Hashem is our king. You can't be a king over your own children. So what does it mean, Avinu Malkeinu? Avinu Malkeinu means that we have to serve Hashem with both levels. Ben and Melech means Evet. What does that mean? B'chin is Benu Ava v'simchas hanefesh li'ez telchu mi madreg le'madreg. Ben is the level of a Yahafta, like you said by Avraham Avinu. Like you said by Avraham Avinu, Halach v'nasei ha'negba. And the Eved is Laved Kameya Eved. Shu Eved is Rabbi Adena, he serves his master. She'ein Kavanasei, what is his master? What is his intent? Not for personal gratification. He says, Rak la'aved es Adena l'malus retene. Hagam shelo yeh le'shum tam v'asoga b'avidasor, even though he will have absolutely no knowledge of why he's doing it. An Eved is told by the master to do something. The whole purpose of the Eved is just to do what the Adam wants. He doesn't know what he wants. He knows what he wants. He's doing it. He doesn't understand why. He doesn't understand the benefit of it. There's no personal gratification. He's doing it, pashut, because this is what the master wants. He doesn't even know the benefit of the Avodah. That he should enjoy the Avodah. Sometimes, when you enjoy what you're doing, so then it's not an Eved. You know, there's an expression, there's slaves in the kitchen, yeah? That's only if you don't like to cook. If you enjoy cooking, then you're not a slave in the kitchen. Slave is when you don't understand it, there's no benefit, you don't like doing it, and you do it just because that's what you're supposed to do.
Just like you have levels, the level of Eved, Lemon, and
yeah.
Do you have levels in Ben?
Sure,
also?
Sure. Ben, you can have Ben that behaves and Ben that doesn't behave. There's still Ben.
The question is behavior.
Yeah, but you can have two levels in a Ben also. Nevertheless, he serves Hashem with a complete heart. He just enjoys serving the master. You know, we learned this already many times. You can have people that, it's just very practical. There are certain bachrim that love to learn, and certain bachrim that love to do, they don't have any zitzfleisch. That means they have no, they can't sit in one place for more than 2 minutes. So they have bachrim that love to learn, and bachrim love to go on mifsarim, you know, all over the place. And some people like to learn. They're introverts a little bit. They're not out there to go out and run around and all that. So sometimes the Rebbe would speak about, okay, you have to learn day and night, you have to learn. So the learning Bachim got excited. Then when the Rebbe spoke, you have to go on Mivtzoyim, then the Mivtzoyim Bachim get excited. Yeah. But the reality is that if you're doing it without any personal gratification, you're doing it as an Eved, then you should be excited both times. Because if you enjoy doing it, it's not the real level of an Eved. Like the Tzemach Tzedek said, well, I have a bigger problem, I do want to learn. Eved means you don't have any enjoyment, there's no personal gratification, there's nothing. You do it just because this is what I need to do. That's the level of Kabbalah Sale. Same thing, you have to accept, right? Tavedu Evet. The Kai mitzvah machmas kichein tziva lo'yamelech. Because this is what the king said. That's it. Hagam ki mitzvahs riches kavana. Even though mitzvahs need kavana, the kavana is simcha b'avas Hashem k'mayim upon l'chayra. Evet is no kavana. Kavana is like the neshama of the mitzvah, right? You have the action of the mitzvah, then you have the intent of the mitzvah. So the intent is like the neshama of the mitzvah. He says, even though l'chayra you need to have chayis in the mitzvah, which is the level of ben, by the way. You also need the level of evet. Why? Being an evet, Kabbalah's oil, is the lowest level of the nefesh, is the level of malchus, melech, right? Kabbalah's oil. There's a mile of Kabbalah's oil, even though there's no simcha, there's no understanding its lowest faculty of the person, Nevertheless, there's an advantage, like it says in somebody else. This is what Shmuel admonishes the Jews in the Sefer Shmuel, and what we read in the Haftarah Pasha Zachar, Halei Shemaya Mizevach Tev. Listening to what the Shaul said, but he was told to kill out the entire nation of Agag, of Amalek, and he left Agag alive, and he left the women alive. And Hashem said, okay, to Shmuel Hanavi, take away the kingdom from Shaul. He didn't listen. Right? So Shmuel comes to Shaul and he says, what did you do? He said, Baruch atah Hashem, akimesi is dvar Hashem. Shaul said, I did what Hashem wanted. So Shmuel says to him, what am I listening to the sheep and what is that? And then he said to him, Halei Shemaya, listening to what Hashem told you to do, Mizavach Toiv is better than the best carbon. It's better than a Zevach. You're telling me Shaul HaMelech said to Shaul, I brought all the animals to bring karbanos. So Shmuel says to him, listening to what Hashem said is what matters, not what you think. And Chassidus explains that Shaul HaMelech, Shaul Mishichma L'mayla Gavay Mikolam, it says, Shaul was head and shoulders above everybody, so it doesn't only mean physically, he was very tall. But Chassidus explains, Sheichme L'mayla means he was head and shoulders above everybody, head represents intellect. Like it says earlier in Chumash by the kings, the 8 kings, Shaul Mercheves Hanar. Shaul came from the broadness of Bina. Shaul was the epitome of understanding Elokus. And Shmuel said to him, Shmaya Mizevach Tev, just do what you're supposed to do. Don't make your own cheshbainis, what you need to think and what you think. Yeah, but Karbanis is Raza the Korban Allah Ad Raza the Ein Sof. The secret, the concept of a Korban goes all the way up to Ein Sof. I understand, but that wasn't what he was told to do. He was told to listen to Hashem. And that's the Avodah of Evetz. He says, even though you need the Avodah of Ben, to have Simcha and Kavanah and all that, but the biggest advantage is when you have Kabbalah Sur. Which means the basis of understanding, the basis of Avinu is Malkeinu, Bittul. That's why the Rabbi explains, Simchas Beis HaShe'eva was water, and then Nisach HaYayin, pouring of the wine, was Bina. Wine is Gishmak, it has a great taste, and so on. And water is foodless. But you only make a bracha on water if you're thirsty, otherwise it's not called a food. And nevertheless, the ultimate simcha was not when they poured wine on the Mizbeach, but when they poured water on the Mizbeach. Because the ultimate simcha can only be with Kabbalah Seil. Even though seemingly it contradicts Kabbalah Seil, because simcha means I'm an Eved, I'm doing it. But nevertheless, when it comes to mitzvahs, Kabbalah Seil is the ultimate level of breaking barriers, and that's the level of simcha. Through all of these things, he says, Telechu Savedu, Ve'esis Ishmeru, Ve'esis Savedu, now he comes to the last one, Uveisid Bakun. Now it's interesting, but what?
Simcha is an expression of Kabbalah Seil, or Simcha itself is or you have to have
Simcha is the concept of breaking barriers. So Kabbalah's oil breaks barriers, which is ultimately the level of Simcha. The purpose of Simcha is Kabbalah's oil, to break the barrier, reach a level higher. You can't reach a higher level if I am me. The whole concept of Kabbalah oil is there is no me, there's only Elokus. Uveisid Bakun. Now he says the last thing, Uveisid Bakum, is plural though. All the other ones, Tavedu, Tishmud, it's all singular. Ki yesh benefesh gimel bechinas. Because in the nefesh there's three levels in the body. Nefesh, roch, neshama. Nefesh, roch, neshama, which are machshava, dibur, and maisa. Right? There is, nefesh, roch, neshama, it says, is action, midas, and then seichel, right? That's but here the Alter Rebbe says it's the same thing, machshava, dibur, and maisa. Machshava represents seichel, dibur represents midas, and action is action. Maisa b'chinas eved, the level of asiyah. Ma'eved is the level of action. V'tzarech ha'adam l'chlala dibur b'dibur machshava b'machshava. You have to include your dibur and Hashem's dibur, and action and Hashem's action. V'nei skashas ha'machshava. How do we connect our machshava to Hashem? B'tveikas ha'nefesh v'simchasa b'elokim chayim. So you have the level of machshava, like the Alter Rebbe says, that's the level of simcha. That's the level of kavanah, the neshama of the mitzvah, connecting to Hashem through simcha. But he says, al chamaisa, which is madreigat achreina, action, which is the last level, tzricha gamken lalis u'niskashe ba'avaya. You have to still connect even your action to Hashem. Why? Because ein is kashrusai de bechinas eved, which is asiyah. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe is explaining the whole way of coming to Menasa Hashem Elokeichem Eschem Ladas is through the various different levels. Telechu, Tiro, Saved, Shmeru, all that represents basically, the Alter Rebbe explained each one the way it is in Torah mitzvahs. And you need both levels. The bottom line is you need the level of the eventual dibur is the ultimate, connecting your action with Hashem's action, your dibur. In other words, when a person, how do we connect Hashem? Very simple. If my thoughts are only about Elokus, so I'm connecting my thought to Elokus. My speech is only about Torah, Dibar Tabam, so then it's connected to Hashem's dibur. When I do mitzvah, it's connected to Hashem's action, which correspond with the three rules, but it's in Asiyah, which corresponds with another million things. Even a person that the seichel is not able to understand and create but normally we like all over Tanya, Chassidus, seichel, it stimulates midas, right? What happens if a person doesn't have the intellectual capacity to reveal through seichel midas, b'chinas telechu? So he says, what should be his aveda? at least Avedas Avedis Tama Laved Avedis Eved. At least be of Eved. Ve'esis Avedu. Because that's more important, like Shmuel told Shaul. Alei Shmeim Mizav Ch'teiv. You can't stimulate a great level of Ava V'yira, so then at least be an Eved. Because an Eved, in essence, reaches a higher level than Ava V'yira. In the essential level. By days I'll base it Bakum. But Taisus Nun, with an added Nun, Tidbakun, right? Ki Nun Pshuta, because it's an end Nun. Nun Sofit, Langa Nun, whatever you call it. What is a Nun at the end of the word? It's Nun Pshuta, it's called Nun Pshuta, is just a long line. Yesh L'Regel Arucha, it has a long foot. Umeshulcha Lamata, and it comes down below the line. The Ram is to hint. Shetis Pashit V'tum Shecha Ora Gil Elokusis Baruch Lamata Mata. Vaisid Bakum, Dr. Rebbe is explaining, is basically the Avedus of Eved. Through Oveis Avedu, then you're going to come to the level of Dit Bakum. You're going to cling to Hashem, right, with Eved. So he says that's why the Vaisid Bakun is with a Nun at the end, because what is the Nun? Hamshachim Omayla Lamata, all the way down Mata Mata. Because what is a Nun? A line of Nun is really a Vav that just goes down longer. Below the line. That means even into the place of Klip and Sitracha, it does this. Ad Shafil or Bechinas Asiyah. That even the level of Asiyah, Yel Kula Kodesh Lashem. That even the lowest level should be holy. Because if you bring down Kedusha all the way down into evil, then Kedusha will not be nourishing evil. Evil will not, the whole thing said Tishmeiru, why do we have to guard the mitzvahs? Because we don't want evil to get a Yanika from Kedusha. But if you're bringing Kedusha all the way down, then in the world of Kedusha there's no Yanika of evil. There's no Yanika, Sitra, Hussein, Cloud. Commercial constantly, like it says, like it says in Schayim. Okay, that's the end of the Maimer.